Okay, I want to give my take on the whole Carl Benjamin, aka Sargon of Akkad, thing regarding his rape satire, as he put it. He described it as satire. Um, this is producing a lot of talking points, and I've just been in a debate with a guy that I respect, that I agree with in a lot of areas, but we disagreed on this, and so I thought it would be a good topic for video. I was going to make this anyway, but yeah, I've been looking at a lot of back and forth both sides, and this is my views. So if you don't know, Carl Benjamin is a British candidate for UKIP, and he is known online as Sargon of Akkad. He's a well-known YouTuber. Um, he does a lot of commentary on issues like the regressive left, third wave feminism, etc. I was familiar with the guy. I'd seen his name come up on other videos. Only recently did I know what he looked like because he'd always kind of been behind his veneer of Sargon of Akkad, which is a reference actually to an ancient Sumerian, I believe, king about 3 or 4 thousand years ago. Akkad was actually an ancient city-state in what is now Iran. Anyway, this all seemed to start with exchanges he had with Jess Phillips, the Labour MP. Now, Jess Phillips is herself a pretty controversial figure, and just for the record, I've no time for Jess Phillips. She famously sat during a committee on issues discussing such problems as male suicide, one of the very few committees, I might add, in Parliament discussing men's issues. And she sat there with a big grin on her face, and she took the line, "Oh, well, I feel uncomfortable as the only woman here." But her whole attitude was to downplay the importance of talking about such issues as male suicide. She is also a blatant sexist. She said Corbyn shouldn't be a Labour leader because he's a white man. Um, I mean, she's just got a track record of anti-male sexism, and disgracefully, the media has not held her to account. And that's another thing that irritates me about all of this, um, is that I don't think the media is holding her to account. Now, I'm going to be critical of Carl Benjamin, but let me just be clear. I think Jess Phillips should be held to account. My friend, the guy I was debating with, said that, well, someone else actually said that she threatened to assault Jeremy Corbyn. Now, if that's true, she should be arrested um, for that, for threats, if it's true. Because, what's true and what isn't true really depends on the sources you're looking at. Um, but suffice to say, I've no time for Jess Phillips. But that really isn't the point. There are certain things, in my view, that you just should see as not being an acceptable as not an acceptable thing to satirize or joke about. Rape is one of them. So this is what I've been saying. The guy I was debating with and others have said, "Oh, he has apologized." Well, that's debatable. His attitude. I know there was a stall scenario where he was debating a feminist, and he apparently said, if you're offended, I apologize," and she said, "I don't accept your apology." And he wanted to make the point, well, they're not going to accept an apology anyway. But that video was shot like in the last few days. Now, my take is I've looked at other videos where his attitude has been basically to trivialize the whole thing and deflect from it and to basically portray himself as a victim of political correctness. And I find the videos I've seen, I've looked at his channel, the sort of overall attitude he's taken is sort of very smug and self congratulatory. I mean, there's no question about it. This guy is smart, right? I think he knows how to hold his own. I think he's a strong debater. But I do think there is something fundamentally wrong with someone who thinks it's okay to say, "I wouldn't even rape you," and then only at the last minute make excuses and say, "Oh," and then only now apologize when he's standing for election. Um, because up until now he's taken the attitude, "Oh, it's just satire. I'm not going to apologize." Channel 4, and okay, people are going to say it's biased, but Channel 4 went to the UKIP conference and they asked him about this, and he got quite angry and he said, I am not going to apologise for the crime of political correctness. So he's moulding the whole thing about PC, and I take issue with that. I think political correctness is a real phenomenon, but I also think there are too many on the right that hide behind it, quite frankly, to basically say, oh, we can say anything we want. And that's not a position I share. If you're going to get into the public arena, then what is okay among your fanboys, Carl Benjamin, is not okay in the wider political arena. And there is this kind of phenomenon I've been seeing from a lot of the supporters. Is this, I'll call it the fanboy phenomenon. So they zoom in and they blindly support everything he says and does, and anyone who challenges him is a snowflake. So he's kind of like a cult figure. That's how I see it. He's kind of become a cult figure, because oh, he's a great martyr against political correctness. But making satire about rape isn't standing up to political correctness. It's just being a tactless idiot. I mean, he's a smart guy, but it's idiotic to think that he won't be challenged for that. Or maybe he's doing something clever. Maybe he's pushing it so that he will be challenged, and then he'll say, "Oh, look," and kind of get congratulations among the supporters. But those of us who are against third wave feminism, for all its hypocrisy and anti-male sexism, I don't think we should hold up this guy as being some sort of poster boy for the cause. I mean, there's very few women have defended him, and I think there's a reason for that. Because rape is just not something that I think people should be making light of. It's a real phenomenon. It affects millions of women and many men, for that matter, around the world. It's just not something that any reasonable person would think is okay to satirize or joke about. And it's not good enough saying, "Oh well, free speech. I can say whatever I want." No, if you're in the public arena, you need to be responsible for your words. And his whole attitude has been one of frankly self pity. And I think he's, with the exception of that thing where he was set up the stall and he was debating the feminists, but that's only been now, as he's standing for the European elections. Um, in my view, if he had integrity, he would have just said in the first place, okay, I got this wrong. I should have understood that it's not acceptable. I got it wrong. So the fact he has no humility, to my line of thinking, is not a particularly good personality trait. I respect people who can admit that they were wrong. Now, Carl Benjamin, I don't really think that apology is sincere. The apology that he's coming out with now, if indeed that's what it is, I think that's debatable. Incidentally, at this channel for like where they were asking him these questions, there was another candidate known as Count Dunkala or Dunkula, who got attention a few years ago because he made his pug do a Nazi salute. And at the time I defended him, I thought, okay, it's the storm in the teacup. It was a bit stupid, but that's about it. I certainly don't think, and I still don't think he should have got police investigation. I think far too often the police are used as a tool um, against these things. So I will say that I think far too often the police are used as a tool to kind of prosecute politically incorrect language. Um, and I'm very concerned about that. But again, this guy, Count Dunkula, made rape jokes regarding female students at university. And when he was challenged, their whole attitude was to stand there. First of all, Sargon of Akkad, Carl Benjamin got angry and defensive, but then they started laughing their heads off like it was some sort of big pub joke. These are guys standing as political candidates. And my issue with this is I don't think that rape jokes should be normalized in political discourse. I really don't. If that makes me a snowflake, then fuck you. I'm a snowflake. I'd rather be a snowflake than a regressive who thinks that's okay. I'm not a snowflake, incidentally. because I'm not personally offended. I just don't think that it should be normalized. I'm not personally offended because I've never been a victim of rape, but I can imagine for actual victims of rape that would be deeply, deeply insulting. I mean, let's be very clear what Benjamin said. I wouldn't even rape you. So his supporters are saying, oh, but he's saying he wouldn't rape her. The point is, why mention rape at all? Why mention it at all? The insinuation is, I wouldn't even rape you. Therefore, oh, if I liked you, then I would rape you. That is the obvious insinuation. And frankly, you're pretty stupid if you can't see that. Now, someone else said I was being pompous and self-righteous. Look, if you form an opinion on anything in this world, people are going to call you names. So, okay, I might come across as self-righteous, whatever. But it's just a matter of fact. I am not never going to use rape as a way to attack a female adversary in any context, whether it's satire or a joke or whatever other way people want to gloss it over. I think Jess Phillips should be confronted. I think she should be confronted on her sexism. I think she should be confronted on her hypocrisy. But I think this is only going to give ammo to those sexist feminists because it's going to give them the narrative, oh, look, this guy, Carl Benjamin, is a misogynist pig. Now, he may or may not be, but I'm not going to go out of my way to defend him. I don't think that he should be held up as some sort of role model against speaking out against regressive feminists. I really don't. Because it gives them the ammo to say, oh, look, men trivialize rape. And I even know that making this video, his fanboys will come out and force to defend him, which just shows that there's a kind of cult-like thing going on here. I've seen this with others. You get it on the left and the right. I don't think anyone should be a cult figure. I don't think anyone is above criticism. So that's my take on it.